Hi, I'm Chris James, and you're watching A Healthy Alternative. Today, we're going to be looking at immunity and the body's immune system. We're missing a piece of the puzzle.
You start getting healthy and you just become a better person.
We need to start focusing more on the individual.
So, with everything going on in the world right now, I thought it would be a good idea to briefly take a look at immunity and the body's immune system. First, let's try to define these words. I noticed there's a few different definitions for immunity. Anytime something isn't clearly defined, it kind of raises an eyebrow for me, which happens pretty often. But generally speaking, immunity to a disease is achieved through the presence of antibodies to that disease in a person's system. Antibodies are proteins produced by the body to neutralize or destroy toxins or disease-carrying organisms. Antibodies are disease-specific. For example, measles antibodies will protect a person who is exposed to measles disease, but will have no effect on, if they were exposed to the mumps, for example. The immune system is a complex network of cells and proteins that defends the body against infection. Now, I did find it interesting that none of the definitions mention shots or medications, but I do think one of the definitions might have mentioned antibiotics. Ultimately, these systems rely heavily on the body's natural resources. Now, I'm going to give you my understanding of these two words and see how it kind of stacks up against the formal understanding. Immunity is when the body's natural alert mechanism is no longer functioning as designed. The body has been contaminated to a point where it can no longer produce a proper response to negative stimulus in the body, and there are no outwardly observable symptoms. Now, the body's immune system is a complex network of systems and organisms that are designed to cleanse and detoxify the body. As organs in this system begin to experience too much stress, disease sets in. So, with that being said, these are the different definitions of, immune system, immunity, mind versus, what we would traditionally look at as being the correct definition or whatever the case may be. How it's coming off to me is that there are areas that we kind of agree on, and then there's areas, really, really important areas where we don't agree, right? When I was reading the book Man's Higher Consciousness 1962, it really started to create the framework for what immunity was. The reality is the body is supposed to, in a healthy environment, with proper resources, create these detox symptoms or symptoms. Okay. Now, in traditional medicine, symptoms are believed to be bad and they're essentially attacked and demonized, right? If you have a runny nose or a stopped up nose or whatever, mucus is the problem, you want to attack the mucus. The body uses mucus as a way to suspend toxicity. So you go into a room, it's dusty, there's a lot of particulates in the air. The body will, use mucus to collect that stuff so it doesn't go in your system and irritate your system. So when we think of symptoms, we really should think of detox symptoms because they're one and the same. Now, with that understanding that detox symptoms and symptoms are the same thing, then we kind of start to realize that attacking symptoms isn't wise. It doesn't actually make sense because detox symptoms, that's letting you know that the body is properly handling whatever is going on, or it is having a proper response to whatever is going on. Now, what you do with that information, whether you support your body or whether you continue doing what's causing the symptoms in the first place, that's another topic and another story. But the body is responding properly, and that is a good thing. When we attack symptoms, we're specifically attacking the mechanisms that are designed to aid us in our detox process. These are things that are designed to help keep us healthy. Even though they're not comfortable, we don't like them, we might feel a little discomfort or whatever the case may be. Ultimately, understanding the job and the purpose of these symptoms is going to benefit you, because if you get away from the idea of attacking detox symptoms and actually aid your body in the process of detoxification, you're going to have a much better outcome, right? That's going to stop disease in its tracks, and then of course you're not going to have to worry about bigger issues down the road, which is what we commonly see. So immunity, when we think about immunity, let's say we're taking antibiotics. First, I want y'all to understand what antibiotic means, okay? Now, I didn't look up the professional definition. I'm just breaking down the word. Anti meaning against, biotic meaning life. Antibiotic, against life. So we use pills, medications, or treatments that are against life. It's the same as when they try to tell us that distilled water is bad. Distilled just meaning pure water, right? Pure water is bad. I think part of the reason why the wool is able to get pulled over our eyes is because we don't really understand the true meaning of these words. We allow them to use word magic on us to trick us into thinking that something means one thing when it actually means something else. And that's a common thread throughout modern society, right? Like if you all research history, ancient technology, math or anything, you'll find this type of treachery embedded in our society. But with that being said, as we start to understand what antibiotic actually means, you think, well, that doesn't actually make sense. Well, the reason why it makes sense is because when you think about these microorganisms and things of that nature, they try to blame the microorganisms for the problems. So you say, okay, well, if you take an antibiotic, it is going to be something that is anti-microorganism, right? And if the anti-organisms are the problem, then you're killing the microorganisms, and that's a good thing. The problem is, just like with soap, right? You look at the package, it says it kills 99.9% of all germs. Now you have to ask yourself, 99.9% of germs? All germs? Are all germs bad? If all germs aren't bad and you're killing 99.9% of them, what type of damage are you doing to your body? So my point is, let's say that you have a normal functioning body, and these bacteria that are so bad and evil, let's say that 15% of this imbalance that this bacteria causes, 15% of these bacteria are bad, okay? So you go in with an antibiotic and it kills 99.9% of the bacteria in that area. Is it going to kill the bad stuff? Yes, but it's going to kill more of the good stuff than it's going to kill of the bad stuff. Now remember, the body is all about balance and harmony. So if you're going in with an antibiotic in order to, create an immuno response and then manufacture antibodies and all this nonsense that they kind of talk about, and you're going in and you're killing 99.9% of bacteria, not good bacteria, not bad bacteria, but just bacteria, do you think that's going to be more helpful or harmful? And these are the questions we need to ask ourselves. Now, of course, if I was on a panel with a whole bunch of scientists or, people who really believed in this stuff, they would have all kinds of very complicated ways to explain why I'm wrong, right? There might even be people in the comment section who are going to be, you simplified it too much. Listen, when things are too complicated, when they're too complex, when the average person can't understand them. I mean, an average person with an average IQ, with the average understanding, with the average ability of comprehension. When they can't understand something, guess what? There's all sorts of room for deception. It doesn't mean that what's being taught is necessarily wrong per se, but you have to understand that it opens up the ability to be very deceptive. Because when I didn't understand certain things, when it came to like science or math or whatever the case may be, I would say, you know what? There are people, there are scientists, there are researchers who have given their life to this type of information, this knowledge, this research. Who am I to say that they're wrong? So I will just simply, concede to them. Whatever they say is probably right. And if it's not right, it's closer to right than what I would come up with. That is the absolute wrong way to approach this. And this is what we typically do. We say, you know what? There's people who have spent their lives researching this. They are definitely going to be more right than I am. They're smarter than I am. The problem is the foundation of the schooling and the education has been corrupt. It means that although someone may have spent their entire life researching something, if the foundation upon that research is built is corrupt, everything they manufacture is going to be corrupted. And that's where this stuff gets extremely dangerous. And this is why I've been urging you all to take your own health into your hands, because you cannot trust the medical industry, scientists and PhDs and researchers. You can't. Because if you die due to a lack of knowledge, whose fault is that? And ultimately, who's to blame? You're dead. It's your life. It's your children that don't have a mother or father, right? It's your brothers and sisters that lost their brother or sister. You see what I'm saying? So ultimately, it is your fault. These things do not have to be very complicated. I believe if you look at my definitions, they're much easier to digest and understand, right? Logically. So if your immune system is a complex system of organs and systems that help keep the body healthy through elimination and detoxification, that's pretty easy to understand, right? If you have a low functioning liver, that is directly affecting your immune system. It directly affects your immune system. If you have stagnated lymph fluid, right, throughout your lymph system, that is directly affecting your immune system. You're going to be more susceptible to disease. So when we talk about bacteria, viruses, just disease as a whole, the most impactful thing you could do is keep these systems and organs as vitalized as possible. Take the time to understand them, which they're not that hard to understand. And then once you do understand these systems and organs, the body's really logical in how it approaches things. It's very, very logical, which is why I've been able to predict how certain things are going to happen when it comes to fasting, right? When it comes to weight loss, when it comes to the shrink week, right? These things are common amongst people who practice these therapies because the body isn't really that complicated. It's science that complicates, modern science, that complicates the body and makes it something that's very hard for the layman to understand. But in reality, nature is really direct with us. We just have been conditioned to view it in the opposite manner that we should, and therefore it's very confusing. You know what I'm saying? I used to hear all the time, and they probably still say it, that the sky is blue because of the reflection of the water. The sky is blue because of the reflection of the water. The water is what makes the sky blue. And I always say, well, I want you to go and get me a cup of blue water. If the sky is blue because it's reflecting the water, then show me where there's blue water. This is the level of conditioning that we have been subjected to. This is why I'm telling y'all, you have to take your health and wellness into your own hands, and we cannot allow scientists and PhDs to over-explain things or explain things over our head in a manner which we can't digest it. We have to be able to understand these things. We have to. Because if we cannot understand these very simple concepts, we are going to continue to die at an increasing rate. We are continue to be sterilized. We are having so many reproductive issues right now due to our lack of knowledge that I cannot. Me and my friend were having a conversation the other night, and he's getting to a point where he's seeing what I've been seeing, right? He's been focused on his health and wellness and eating raw and it's opening his eyes. And I'm telling y'all, if you listen to the intro to my video, I say in the intro every time, as we become healthy, we become a better person. You know, you see your perspective changes. You see things that have always been there, but you finally start to see them. And his frustration is like, how are people like so ready to believe these agencies and these entities that are known liars, that have literally shown us through their actions time and time again that they are not here to help us, to teach us, to properly guide us or lead us. How are they allowing these entities to continue to do those things? And I'm like, because we have toxic thinking, right? There's mucus on the brain because we eat a whole bunch of dairy, and we eat, sugar and processed foods. And so people aren't thinking clearly. And as you start to think clearly, you start to see what's always been in front of you. So with that being said, I hope this video helped you all. My goal here is really just to open up your eyes. That's it. You got to do your own research. You got to do your own experimentation. That's what I did. And then once you start doing that, these things that I'm talking about will become slated, and you won't have to argue or debate anybody because you'll know truth when you see it. Remember, there's a difference between fact and truth. And understanding that difference between fact and truth is what's going to essentially provide you with enlightenment, right? So with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, the application of knowledge is power, and I will see you all next time.